is Norwich Confidential with your hosts, Dr. Ben Hong, Bonnie Hong, and Mr. Bob Farwell.
I'm Ben Hong.
And I'm Bonnie Hong.
And Bob Farwell is still on vacation.
He is still on vacation.
Well, tonight we have plenty of items to talk about. And one of the things that, of course, that you may not realize, but we did have the carnival in town this past weekend, Memorial Day weekend, and it was fun.
It was lots of fun.
Yeah.
We do have a guest this evening.
And we do have a guest this evening, and we have Mr. Brandon Hyde, and he is a member of the board of directors of the Chelsea Gardens. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And you're also a citizen member of the MOHEGAN Park Advisory Committee.
Yes.
And we do have plenty of things to talk to you about.
Great.
We were at the City Council meeting last week, and
well, before we get to that, can I
Yes.
go over some of the more recent news items from this past week?
It's always like she always likes to take the headlines first.
The headlines are first.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
All right, because a lot of this is not covered by our normal corporate media, and they are things that I think we really do have to know about. This week, in the recent votes that were taken in the Senate, the Trade Promotion Authority did pass. The Senate did vote to go for a fast track of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And if you remember, the Trans-Pacific Partnership is what has been described as NAFTA on steroids. It has some absolutely horrendous chapters in that trade agreement. Our only hope now is to make sure our House of Representatives does not fast track it. So I will be watching what happens in the House now. The Patriot Reauthorization Act was voted on and rejected. I give my compliments to both Senator Murphy and Senator Blumenthal for voting against that. What that would have done if it had not passed, if they did reauthorize it, would have meant, well, I'm sorry, the closure was voted yes on by our senators. What closure does is stop the filibuster. They were trying to stall for more time and for more pressure being put on a number of our senators because they wanted to just pass the reauthorization of the full Patriot Act, including the passages within that act that allowed massive data collection of all of our phone calls, our emails, and if any of you, I know many of you are not concerned about having your emails and phone calls collected by the government. It is a very dangerous thing to have happen. After closure was invoked, which meant that they would have to then vote on the bill, both Senator Murphy and Senator Blumenthal voted no to have it reauthorized. So I do thank both of them.
Actually, I can tell you a very simpler way of explaining this, because you are so convoluted, Bonnie. All I want you to do is turn on YouTube and look at John Oliver, and it is about surveillance. Its topic. It is. I tell you, it is so funny, and it's about 30 minutes. And even though it took longer than what Bonnie just said, it's going to make things so clear to you. And it definitely is worth looking at. So YouTube, John Oliver, and watch his surveillance episode, and it really is very good.
Well,
so,
you could explan what John Oliver calls the act.
So in any case,
it is called the what?
It's a surveillance.
You don't want me to repeat it.
On Bonnie's explanation, it's a little bit kind of convoluted because there's a lot of maneuvering going on in Congress right now as far as the Patriots Act, and well, eventually something will come out of this or not come out of it.
Yep. In the House of Representatives, the Science Program Reauthorization Bill did pass. Our Representative Joe Courtney did vote no on that, and for a very good reason. This vote went almost directly along party lines. Although it sounds like this would be a no-brainer that everyone would support reauthorization for money that is going to science, the one thing that the House did was to actually specify like which technologies in science would be funded. So you have less money for renewable energy, and you're continuing to put money into fracking, oil. So that was also straight across the board. As far as where they were directing the money, it was definitely for their major benefactors.
Another boring item.
Well, I don't think it's boring. The other one that is not in the news is the number of oil spills that have occurred this past week. We have a major oil spill off the coast of California in Santa Barbara. It has, again, been devastating to that area. There's another one in Thailand on their pristine beaches. Both of those have been devastating. In California, there's been more than 100,000 gallons of crude oil that was spilled from a ruptured pipeline. The company that owns the pipeline has had over 175 violations. And I think that, you know, you begin to look at the number of oil spills that have occurred that we do not hear about. And at the same time, our government has just given the lease to drill under Arctic ice. And if you can even begin to imagine how you would clean up an oil spill under an ice shelf, it's almost unimaginable. The other oil spill that no one heard about happened in January of this year, and it was the second oil spill into our Yellowstone River, the longest river undammed in the United States. This oil spill by ExxonMobil was 63,000 gallons of oil, and it's been washing up along an 85-mile stretch of our Yellowstone River. Again, 50,000 gallons were also spilled almost in the same place several years ago. And the final item that I think is newsworthy, that again has not been at all touched by the local media, is the bird flu, avian flu, that has struck in the Midwest to our poultry farms. These are on the industrial farms. It is the largest epidemic of avian flu in the United States ever, in the history of this. It has been devastating the factory farms. I did put a photograph of what these factory farms look like on our website on Facebook. You can go on Facebook and go to Norwich Confidential. You will see what those factory farms look like, and it shouldn't surprise anyone that these flocks of birds, of chickens, are infected and are dying. It's now already affected 9.8 million of our in those poultry farms. It has not hit the Southeast yet, which is our largest poultry producers that have the most of these factory farms. The one good thing is it has not affected a single backyard flock. So for those of us that buy our chicken from our local farmers and our local poultry farmers in southeastern Connecticut, they probably will never be struck by it. And it has not hit a single backyard flock in the Midwest at this point. So,
well, the way they deal with this problem in other countries is that if you have one case of avian flu, they would kill all the birds in that area. Correct. Now, there was a time in China when everybody were killing all the birds that they could find, including sparrows, house sparrows, all the birds, everything, because of this so-called avian flu. But it is here, and pretty soon we won't have any chicken.
Except from our local farmers.
Well,
there is something wrong with the factory farms.
If chicken becomes so rare, we won't be able to say, this tastes like chicken. Anyways, if you want to see something really funny about that chicken, again, go to YouTube and go to John Oliver.
He loves John Oliver,
his
if you can't tell.
episode of chicken, and you'll see how funny it is. And it tells you also the background on how they raise chickens. And well, free range in a huge factory, like no sunlight or anything like that.
They're not free range. They have no moving room at all.
Well,
anyway,
yeah, I saw the free range chicken, and of course they have also the free range eggs that they keep on rolling down the hill when they lay it. So that's the free range chicken.
Okay. So before we do that, can I? And you introduce our guest. We have neglected to thank our staff here for several weeks, and I really do want to thank both Mike and Greg, who are excellent. They've just been terrific as our support team here in the control booth and on camera. So to thank both of you. They are students at Norwich Tech, and I think we're very lucky to have them. So Mike, Greg, thank you.
So we give them a big round of hands.
Yes, both of you. You're great.
So well, last week Monday we went to the council meeting and heard some presentations, as well as, of course, complaints about this so-called Chelsea Garden. And actually I wasn't very familiar with this, so I said, well, we are going to do some research, and we probably should call somebody from the Chelsea Garden board, because all I was hearing were the neighbors around that area complaining that it's going to ruin
their personal backyard.
Their backyard, their scenery, their quiet time to do their thinking and so on. So in any case, I would like to present to you tonight Mr. Brandon Hyde. Now, he's going to talk about the Chelsea Garden. Now, Brandon is a member of the board of the Chelsea Gardens, and he's also the citizen member of the MOHEGAN Park Advisory Committee. So you sit in the committee and you advise them to approve the Chelsea Garden. Is that how you do it?
So I'm glad I have this platform to speak, actually, because there's been some questions as of late. The project was actually put into place in '93 with a lease with the city. At that time, I was in high school, so I guarantee you I was.
So you're not involved
on
at that time.
MOHEGAN Park on that time. And matter of fact, no one who sits on the current Park Advisory Committee was on at that time. When I did get involved, not long after high school, I felt it was important to get involved in my town, and MOHEGAN Park was one of the first committees I wanted to join, because I went to the Ledyard Agri-Science School and studied horticulture.
Did you?
And and I've had a deep passion for horticulture and the environment. That's what I studied. So, and then from there I went to UConn and studied horticulture at UConn. So this committee was a committee that I felt that I could strongly represent as a citizen member, and I joined, and which is appointed by the City Council. As you're probably aware, the names are brought forth to the City Council and they vote on them. And so this was all put into place prior to me joining, and they did feel it was very important.
So this was actually presented already long before you became a board member.
Yeah, as I said, 93.
So it was all approved and done, is that right?
That's correct.
This was voted by the City Council way then in the 90s?
That's correct. The lease was originated in 1993.
And the lease was already done. And so, except that there was no development at that time, or in between the time, until the present.
Many years of planning. A project of this magnitude, this large, takes quite a bit of planning.
Right.
There has been obviously a visible sign of Chelsea Gardens for a long time, right on Rockwell Street.
Sure.
I think that I've been familiar with the project for a while. The Norwich Rotary has had a number of the board members, the chairman of the board coming on to show us what Chelsea Gardens was planning, and to talk about what the impact would be on the community. Would you talk a little bit about what the plan actually is before we get into some of what the petition? We'll talk about the petition later.
And by the way, this is live show, so that anyone can just give us a call, and they can actually ask you questions directly also.
I'll answer to the best of my knowledge. So just to go back for 1 second, just so the public understands my position on both boards, the park committee had actually voted to have a liaison on both committees, and that's why that position exists, and that's why I'm on both.
That was very smart.
Yeah.
That was after the...
it was after the initial. Yeah, it was when I got involved.
They felt that someone from the Mohegan Park Advisory Board
Yes.
should be on the foundation board.
Yes, and I was...
the Chelsea board.
I was chairman at that time, which I still am, of Mohegan Park, and they felt it was appropriate that the chairman, sit on that committee just to have a strong voice in Chelsea Gardens, and vice versa, to feed information about Chelsea Gardens back to Mohegan Park.
Very smart. I mean, so the public is represented
I think,
on the Chelsea Garden board.
Sure. And there's many community leaders, not only community leaders, but people that are very active in the community on the board. It's been overall a very positive, although it's taken a long time in planning, something this large does. It's had a lot of support of a lot of community organizations. We've presented to, like you said, Rotary and business clubs alike, as well as all different agencies within the town as well.
Well, show us a little bit about what is planned first, so we could then maybe talk about it a little bit. I know that they'll just high-five me, Mike, okay, when you guys are ready. And then as we go through what the plan is, it's not surprising that this would take a while in getting funding. Ben and I have visited many botanical gardens all over. One of the most impressive, I think, that we were lucky enough to go to was the one in Canada. It was outside Montreal, wasn't it?
Something like that, yes.
Absolutely wonderful. I mean,
and there's well, we've been to the, of course, the Brooklyn Botanical Garden.
Right.
And there are other gardens that are just beautiful with this Victorian-style greenhouse, huge.
Most major cities have botanical gardens that have been endowed, to the city or whatnot. But yeah, this is I can certainly go over it once we're focused on the plan. But,
go ahead.
Let's start.
To give a broad overview, this is the master plan. Hopefully they can see it well on TV. This is the parcel that the lease is originated. This is about an 80-acre parcel, for Chelsea Gardens. So down here would be the Rose Garden, just to explain to people, off of Rockwell Street, where we are with the Chelsea Gardens project. And the main entrance is actually up here off of Wilderness. We wanted straight access for cars to be able to pull in and out of. And the only part that we've cleared so far to gain access to the site to show potential donors has been this area here where the parking and the buildings are going to go. The plan is to keep the majority of the site very much in work with the wilderness that's there, and make trails. A lot of these existing paths were already there. This old town road actually that comes down through here, which is a road that's a paper road, I guess it's asphalt up here by the ball fields. So the clearing that we've done so far has just been in here, and that's really the predominant area as of right now. And again, it's to show access to the site. This is where you would enter the site, and I have another plan that shows this area in more detail. But basically, the butterfly pavilion, the educational segment involved, which I can talk about a little bit later as well. This would be a great asset for Norwich in terms of having an educational component here again. I don't know if we can zoom in any more on this, and we can talk about a lot of this a little bit later. But the educational buildings would be an important part of this. When I grew up in Norwich, in the school system, we had MOPEEP, which was we got to study the environment, right? And I don't know, that program doesn't exist sadly anymore, but it was a great program. I still remember it from when I went to elementary school in Norwich. We have some vernal pools here that are very, very nice vernal pools. This whole area.
Some what?
Vernal pools.
Vernal pools.
Yeah.
What is a vernal pool?
This is where salamanders and a lot of activity starts at a very young age for reptiles in the wilderness. And so these would be an excellent education area right up here.
Yeah, again, when I grew up in Norwich, I could just walk out into the woods off the project, and I didn't know they were called vernal pools, but they were wonderful for a child to actually see them
Sure.
Yeah, you
like
pick
that.
up a turtle.
And learn a lot about the
A frog,
environment.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that area is getting untouched, and actually, you know, the initial plan had gotten changed a little bit once we found out the value of these vernal pools up here. We wanted to keep them, and so we're very much trying to work with the environment in this area, and so that's why we shifted the project down in here.
Okay. You can, as we'll talk a little bit while you change the,
Okay.
to put the next one up.
So, well, Bonnie, and you probably know that everything that Brandon is saying is basically what our idea is going to be as far as the garden is going to be. Is that right? And but for everything that he said and everything that you said, Brandon, there's always somebody that is much against every sentence that you just said.
Sure.
And we can go over that and every statement that you made. But for now, we would like to see the overall idea of how this will become a reality, and of course how it will benefit the city, and so on.
But what you have up,
This is the education center, is that right? That you are.
Yeah. Well, this is the main entrance. So down here would be the entry kiosk.
Yes.
So you'd come in off the parking lot area, which we spoke of, which, by the way, is only paved for about 60 cars. The rest is grass parking lot. And this would be the entry kiosk, and you come in here. And if you were to hang right, this would be the school's area with the greenhouse attached. Okay. And then the butterfly pavilion, which I want to spend a lot of time talking about, because when we talk about the economics of the project, that is an important part of phase one in order to get income coming into the project. And then attached to it, in some magnitude, will be a place for people who are visiting to dine and eat, you know, lunch or whatever they may want when they're there in the project. And so that's kind of a focus into the main entry to the buildings, if you will.
at you can change it while we talk about this a little
Sure.
bit, but I know at the City Council there was a lot of discussion. I'm glad you're going to be talking about the Butterfly Pavilion, because there really was a lot of discussion about how that particular
Let me
point
put it
was-
this way, there were a lot of negative discussion as far as the butterflies are
butterflies,
concerned.
yeah, and I was very surprised
there
by
was
that.
nobody there that really supported the butterfly pavilion.
one.
But in your case, actually, what you're saying is that that's going to be the first attraction that's going to generate income right away.
Absolutely.
And that is probably true.
Well,
but
that one person who was the accountant and
well, yes.
had run another nonprofit kind of thing,
Yes.
talked about how much money it would actually lose.
Well, we'll talk about each
right.
Negative statement at
We'll
the
go,
time.
we'll come back
just,
to the butterfly.
Sure,
Pavilion.
it's an important part, and if you want to focus on that now, we can, or I can
Maybe-
continue on the broad spectrum, if you will.
Yes, one of the well, let's
Sure.
just start with the butterfly.
With the butterfly,
pavilion, because
yeah.
what you said is that it's going to be the first
Income producing.
income producing show that you will have and exhibits that you will have, and a lot of people probably don't understand that, and basically they may not even understand how you will get the butterfly in. I mean, I can imagine you catching butterflies with your little net there and then filling up the entire
That would be the
building.
more laborious way of
That's
doing it.
right. But yes, I do know how they get those butterflies, and they're beautiful, and they really are very a big source of attraction.
We keep bringing our grandson back to
Because
the one that's
it-
at the Museum of Natural
right.
History in New York.
It's a continuous, it's a living museum, like, and so on, and you'll never see the same exhibit all the time. So there's always something new.
The best living example right here in Norwich is the fact that we've hosted, as a fundraiser, usually around Mother's Day, the past several years, the Butterfly Pavilion, which has been at Hart's Greenhouse the last couple of years. That's
Yes.
our group that's put that on. And I can tell you that we raised between $20,000 and $25,000 just in a weekend, a long weekend, running that. So that helps you understand a little bit about the interest. We couldn't even fit all the school groups in that wanted to come to see that. So the demand is huge. And it's an educational thing. That's why the school groups were involved. They're looking for, you know, local attractions like this to bring the kids to and have them understand. You know, we set up the chrysalis so they can understand where a butterfly comes from, and they got to fly around. They understand how they eat the nectar and the different plants that they might feed on. So this is all.
Yes, one of the criticism that they have also, and again, that this may be that because we didn't have, or they didn't have that much knowledge about how to raise butterfly, but they said, well, especially in our area when it's cold and you know, you really have to heat that place to something like 80, 82 degrees and humidity of 70%.
Right.
And that's going to cost a lot of money to do that, and therefore all the exhibits that you may have may not really become profitable at all.
Someone actually said that at your last butterfly that you actually lost money.
So,
that was their comments.
So primarily it all boils down to, are you, you know, making this exhibits, and then, and the biggest question that they have is that if this exhibits or this plan of yours do not go through, and it's already built or halfway built, and who's going to pick up the?
But before we get to that part of it, the overall, let's stay with the butterflies first.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk.
I'd like to, and I'd like to talk a little bit more about the success, quite frankly, that some of the butterfly pavilions have had in the area.
Right.
And I'll use the one in Deerfield, Mass. Matter of fact, Channel 3 did an episode last winter when people were stuck in their houses and needed somewhere to go. That butterfly pavilion attracts 200,000 people a year. So not to say we're going to have 200,000 in the first year, but those are pretty impressive numbers. And even at a modest rate, it'd be hard to lose money.
Right, especially when you consider people will come to Mystic and Mystic Seaport and the other attractions. This just makes one more destination within our region.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point with that our economic study that we had done had highlighted all the other tourism attractions here in the southeastern Connecticut, from history to entertainment. There's an array, and really, if you think about it, that's what some of our major industry in southeastern Connecticut is right now, with two major casinos and again, all the historic sites that we're fortunate to have. People can really create their own.
So you're looking at the Butterfly Pavilion as the initial facility that will be built, the initial building that will be built.
One of, yes.
And specifically because it does have the potential of continuing to raise funds.
Absolutely.
For the other parts of the Chelsea Gardens Botanical Garden.
Sure, the actual botanical garden part, which again is going to utilize a lot of the trails that are already there. If people have walked the site, they realize we've given site walks many times, offered them out to the public, and just to show the trails. But we're going to be planting along those trails, and
well, I do believe that if done right, the butterfly attraction is going to be very successful. I don't see how it cannot be a success. So all these things about comments about heating belts and all that thing, I don't think that's really.
Numbers are a funny thing that can be manipulated in almost any way that somebody wants to manipulate.
But in every place that we go to that has a butterfly exhibit, there's always been successful. There's even a place where we went and it was kind of a semi-open butterfly exhibit.
In Hawaii.
Right, they were allowed to just.
They were hardly
fly all
you see them all over, and it was basically
and then they would just come back.
It wasn't even in a building. They had a small area that was kind of.
And we went, and because those are just regular local butterflies that they had. They just had huge concentration of them. So if really done right, and I would say I've seen the most beautiful butterflies around also when I was growing up, and also when we went to South America, they were beautiful.
And you look at the history of what's happening right now to the monarch. I mean, it is very frightening when you realize that the migration of the monarch is all by itself is just so phenomenal.
Totally different butterfly money, but in any case. We do have other exhibits that will show, this just something that we have not seen before, that you'll be amazed at, well, gee, I didn't realize that such a beautiful butterfly could exist. The swallowtails, scissor-tails, and the big moth and so on. And the biggest moth that I've seen actually came in from the Philippines, huge moth.
And some that are native to this area.
Right. Oh yeah, we've seen a few of them. So
I cannot finish about. Do you have more on the Butterfly Pavilion that you wanted to?
No, I mean it's really the kind of the catalyst or one of the main income producing elements, which I think is very important.
So how big is the pavilion going to be? What's the square footage?
So I don't know the square footage off the top of my head. I apologize. As far as the studies that we've done, and which I think are quite modest, to be honest. We're expecting around 60,000 visitors the first year, and in year 5 up to 90,000, which compared to Deerfield is still, I think, very conservative numbers. And
there's not a lot around Deerfield.
No, and we have so much more to attract.
I mean, I think it's going to be a much larger.
Yes.
You would imagine the same person who's interested in nature and goes to Mystic Aquarium might also be very interested in a place like this.
Exactly.
And I know we take our daughter to Mystic Aquarium occasionally, and this would be another place if it were nearby. We would certainly.
Oh, we take our grandson to Mystic Aquarium. If we have a butterfly pavilion, we probably would be doing that.
That's the first place
the
you'd
first
go.
place,
Sure.
because obviously they get very excited because the butterfly can land all over their head and so
little
on.
nectar and the.
Yes.
Yeah. So on all of the trails, you said you're going to be doing plantings.
Yes.
What kind of plantings? Have you been up to the botanical garden in Montreal where they're?
I haven't. We've had several members of our board travel to different ones. I've been to Longwood Gardens multiple times, and that's one of my favorites. Actually, we have students that come over and stay with us occasionally. We bring them out there because it's just a beautiful place. And again, to not to hammer the economic part of it, but it seems to be a hot point. When we go to Longwood Gardens, we stay over at least one night.
Yeah.
So we're staying in their hotels, we're eating at their restaurants locally. Just a huge impact for the whole area.
Now, when you have, the plan is to have the butterfly pavilion as your first exhibit, and hopefully it will generate enough income to at least maintain and not only that, but make the whole thing grow.
Sure.
Now, with your overall plan, is there a funding as far as your organization is concerned, the Chelsea Garden? You get the foundation money, money going into it?
Sure.
That was the #1 question.
Right, that's the #1 question, because they were saying that this is very ambitious.
You're looking at a project of what was the scale? I mean, how many millions?
Around 18 million.
Around 18 million, and that could be fairly conservative as well.
Because they did look at your income over the last few years, like, you made something like 4,000 or 5,000 or 16,000 the most in a year, something like that. But this is, if you have to do it right, you have to do it right. Otherwise, it will just be one of those other gardens that we've seen.
So to understand where we've been and what we've been doing the last few years, the idea was not to bring a lot of net income in the last few years. It was to pay for the studies and to pay for the engineering and to get it through all these steps that we needed to do. So you're not going to show a lot of net profit. We've been turning on. The difference between local support and getting the project to where it is now and the capital program to get it to where it needs to be are two totally different things. We've had all local support so far, from small businesses, private citizens, people who are just very interested in this to be in Norwich. When you start a capital campaign, it's a totally different animal. We have a business plan that we've put together. We now have access to the site. So, I mean, there are so many endowments and trusts and different funding elements out there of large dollars that are outside this area that are looking for projects like this. That's why there are so many botanical gardens out there.
You had a considerable amount of interest from one of them in, where was it, England?
Yes, and that's our educational segment. Our educational component, excuse me, is we have since early on a relationship with Rosemary Alexander from the English Gardening School. She visited several sites in the United States. She is very interested in setting up a school here in the United States. She has several throughout the world, and she visited, I think, one out in Colorado site and our potential site. She loved being English. She loved the Victorian nature here, architecture, I should say, excuse me, in Norwich. She really loved the city, thought that it had a lot to offer, and chose Norwich to partner with, and we're really excited about that.
When I first heard about that several years ago, I was very excited.
Sure.
That's why when this petition popped up, I was actually surprised, #1, that there was such an angry overtone to what was being said. And I at first thought, well, maybe I missed something. But the more I went back to look at why I was such a strong supporter, all those elements were still in place.
Sure.
So and when you begin to tell the public that, look, you know, this isn't something that is just a passion of a few local people that had an incredible dream. This is something that you already are partnering with one of the most famous world-renowned
gardening schools.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
No, it's. I mean, we've made a lot of progress, and it is an exciting thing. I think I talk to people every day throughout the town, and the vast majority of people are very excited about this, and there's no reason not to be, in my opinion. Yeah, I expect I can't think of one project in the city that has not had a few people object to it. And I understand that people have the right to object. I would hope that their information they put out there is factual, not false. And they have the right for freedom of speech, absolutely. I have no problem with that as long as the information they're putting out there is accurate.
Well, the biggest fear that they have, and just like any other time when we have projects like this, probably before your time, and again, maybe they have their own hidden agenda, but I came to a conclusion that basically what they're trying to say is this, that they do not feel that there will be enough financial backing for your project. They fear that if left unfinished, then the taxpayers of Norwich are going to have to be the one to dig out from the pocket to bail this out, or whatever they have to do. So that is it's a fear kind of
of having something that is in the public interest.
That's right.
That will not be completed, and what is owned by the public will have.
I know, like I said, those who speak may have their own personal different agenda, but I think the message is that beware, because if this group cannot make it through, then we will end up being our tax money will be used to bail them out. So
part of what they were saying, though, I know is not true. For instance, when they said, you know, you cannot lease public land. Well, it happened at the marina.
Absolutely, perfect example.
Even in Mohegan Park today, you can't go in and use the pavilion without renting it from the city.
That's right.
This is not an unusual concept. Right. The overall impact to me, I would think, is there's a great benefit to having a botanical garden of this quality in our own community. So everyone benefits.
Right. Absolutely.
However, even I have some concerns about not about having the project completed, or even about having getting the funding, because when you start looking at who is now supporting it, the quality of what you are planning, my concern looks to the same problems that we have. I would like to know a little bit more about the foundation that has the lease. Mm-hmm. Could you speak to that?
The Chelsea Botanical Gardens Foundation? You want to know about what part of it?
All right.
I mean, it's a group of very active.
And that is the actual controlling body of our public land.
Our board of directors. Yeah, for Chelsea Gardens
and this foundation, it is not a privately held.
No.
Money-making operation that's going to have an amusement park.
Oh, I see where. Yeah, no. So I'm glad you brought that up. So, all of us are volunteers on the board. It's made up of citizens. Like I said, I'm active in many organizations. This is one organization I'm a member of. And it tends to be that a lot of the people that sit on these boards are active in other boards. These are people that are very proactive in the local community, and they give back to many projects with people that have gotten things done on other committees before.
Right.
And our past presidents have quite an impressive resume of projects that they've created. So yes, none of us have benefited at all. So that's also a falsity that's been out there.
Okay. So the foundation would also be able to, in the long run, let's say 20 years, in a 20-year period. Once you have something very well established, you would be able to offer, like to the citizens of Norwich, a special, you have a pass to come into the property to walk around. You just can't go into any of the exhibits unless you pay a residence fee.
Sure.
So would it be structured some way like that, or?
That question's come up a lot, and I can't speak for the whole board since we haven't voted on that, but I can say, you know, the support of the local community has been awesome, and I can't think of any reason we wouldn't offer a discounted citizen rate, or at least a few days during the course of the year. They might even be able to come in free of charge. Again, I can't speak on behalf of the whole board, but
Right.
I can't see any reason we wouldn't do that.
And unlike the marina, where I think the city was very foolish not to purchase the marina back for the small amount of money that it was going to be sold back to the city for. And basically the city wasn't buying back our property, it was buying back all the improvements that had been on that site. That's all it was buying back. And then to allow it to be sold to an interest outside of our community, I think has been disastrous. I personally, I've seen in my own personal, they may say how wonderful they love Norwich and they're supporting Norwich, when in fact even Rotary has not been able to even rent the tent at any. I think this is an important issue, Ben, because
it is, but the decision was made some time ago, and it is a 99-year lease for $1 a year. And so basically they are leasing for the use of the property, and basically they have the right to do whatever they want to do with the property.
No, wait a minute.
There was no
Excuse me.
stipulation there that it has to be all made public, or for the use of the public.
That's why I qualified what I'm saying, because I do think the city made a major mistake in not purchasing back the improvements that were made to the public land. So that, and I think that that is my concern. If there is ever a point in time in the future when Chelsea Gardens Foundation, for whatever reason, decides, okay, we're going to stop our operation for whatever reason, that if there is a stipulation somewhere in the lease with the city that everything reverts back to the city without a specific charge, because it's a foundation, it is not a private enterprise, I think that would, I think I have a fear of the same thing that happened on Marina, that is public property, would happen again. I mean, to have something this beautiful in the control of outside forces from our own community is something that I fear.
I can't speak to the marina specifically.
No, but speaking to the foundation, to Chelsea Gardens.
Sure.
Because that can't be changed.
Yeah, no, and I can't really speak to that, but I can say that for Chelsea Gardens, it is a local bunch of community members. And as the board has changed, even the time I've been involved with Chelsea Gardens as local people, some get off because they have other commitments. Other people have gotten very involved. And it's remained a community project. And I don't know the verbiage in the lease per se, word for word. So I don't know that. But, you know, I think we need to be very positive about this project. Nothing good has ever come out of being negative. Progress has never come out of being negative. And I think sometimes private enterprise has the ability to do things which taxpayers don't always feel comfortable having their money invested in, as a city council might have in that situation. So as a nonprofit private foundation, we are allowed to do these things that a government might not be able to.
And that's very exciting.
This is a very exciting project, and I would say that more power to you. But let me ask you to answer some of the negative criticisms that came out of that meeting. One, of course, is that, well, gee, they're destroying the environment.
So, destroying the environment. So that area was actually cleared years ago, from my knowledge, and the amount of trees up there that are significant are very few in terms of their value as significant trees. The ones that are, we have flagged. We're not clear cutting the area. It's been a selective process.
Right.
And,
you do have an environmental study, though.
We do have an environmental study. We had professional engineers work with us on this.
So that took care of that issue.
None of this has been done hastily, and I will say that, yeah, we need to be careful as citizens as we're looking at information that's out there to make sure that what we're looking at is actually Chelsea Gardens property. If you want to see what it looks like and how professionally the job has been done and cleared, please go up from the outside and visit. We do have the area posted off now. Please understand that that's because we do hold liability insurance on the property as we need to within the lease.
As you clear it.
Yes.
As we clear it. And so the reason we can't allow access right now to the site, and I hope people understand, is like any construction site, we're worried about liability. But you can clearly see from the road the clean job that's being done up there.
So another criticism, well, you're destroying our peace and quiet. Every morning I come down with my cup of coffee and I want to hear the birds singing, and now all I hear is this chainsaw or whatever it is. So I no longer have my little area where I can contemplate and think, because now I will be hearing tourists coming in, and I will be hearing cars moving in and so on. I no longer have that peace and quiet that I came in for.
Yeah, we all enjoy our peace and quiet. I mean, we've done everything we could to be respectful. We left a buffer here. As this went through all the proper town agencies and departments with feedback, we left a buffer as we should. We're being respectful and working within the hours of operation of any business. We're not clearing at night or on off hours. So we're doing our best to work with any project. There's going to be noise, unfortunately, but we're nearing the end of this part of the project, and I hope people understand that.
And I think the truth of it is that in the end, their properties are going to be more valuable. You have a location then that is absolutely beautiful. You have, and so for a community where most of us have lost value in our property, they will be the ones that will benefit in the long run. Today, they're not happy, but again, I think it's with a lot of things that either government or the private sector does, especially when it is for the benefit of the entire community, whether it's because you need to have a wind turbine or whatever, and you have the first people that will oppose it. They just don't want it in their backyard. You can do it. I mean, I even heard people say it there. There are other places in Mohegan Park that are already, you could have done it there. You know, I mean,
it's just the fact that it wouldn't be right there, and so we all have freedom of speech. We all want our peace and quiet.
Of course. Well, another criticism, of course, is that, well, these roads are small and it's almost like a country road, and when we have all these visitors coming up, we can no longer just do this walk on the side of the road, because now we have to be very careful that we don't get into an accident or something like that. So that's another criticism that they have.
Yeah, and with every project, there's going to be questions, there's going to be issues. So the traffic study had been done to determine the safest route for these cars to come up off of the Route 2 extension there, and up Harlan Road, and which is a main road.
Good.
And so, I'll say one thing, and I don't know how much time we have left here, and these are all good questions. With any project, you'll get people that are against it, and I understand they're passionate, and emotion plays into it, and I completely understand and respect that. On the other hand, I grew up in this town, and I was always told that Norwich needs something. Norwich needs something. So here's a group of people that got together, and we're trying to do something good for the community. And I understand there's quite understanding, maybe just a few people that are against it, really in relevance to the size of the whole city. It's a great project. The vast majority of the community is behind it. I understand the concerns of the people that are against, but we need to look at it as an asset for the whole community and what it's going to be able to provide and give back.
And that's very true, because one of the observations I have when I was at that meeting is that almost everyone who spoke against it were all within the neighboring area of where your boundaries are going to be.
Sure.
So I yet have to hear somebody from way in some place in the West End or whatever it is that came in and say, well, I'm against this because this is what it is.
Whatever. Yeah.
And no, I did not hear that. Basically, everything that I heard were all because they are in that same neighborhood that you'll be putting.
It really is a great project.
Well, it is a great project. I'd like to see, you know, more, flowers and plants that are something that you don't see. I mean, why do you go to a zoo? Well, you go to a zoo because you want to see some unique animals that you don't see every day. And I'm sure that this is probably what you want to do instead, and do some study and so on. We just came back from Hawaii, and I was really floored because they have this plant, an orchid that is being auctioned off, and the price so far was $20,000. And this
for one flower.
Wow,
for one flower. But the fact is that this was a new species that was never discovered before. They just got it from Malaysia or some other part, and they only have that one pot in there because they couldn't clone it yet. Wait till you buy that. So yeah, definitely, I'd like to be educated as far as the plants and vegetations and how it interacts with the environment, and how it can be placed in a way that it will be nice. Getting that your area, just like a swamp area where you can have kids there take their fishing net and catch some salamanders and mosquitoes and so on.
We also have, the Mohegan Park itself, where there is fishing. We can. There's so much up in the park that will always remain as part of our park.
Right.
This as an additive, one more absolutely beautiful place to.
I think the park is underutilized.
Underutilized.
If you can see the people that go there, they're the same people over and over, and you don't see a new people coming in. I mean, when they used to have a small zoo there, I mean, it's the same people. I used to like going to that zoo there.
To put my Mohegan Park hat on for a second, the park is a great asset, and we've added on 2 parcels just since I've been on Mohegan Park.
Wow.
So people should know about that as well. So the park has actually grown in size in the last 10 years. They're not giving away the land. So it's a great thing. The park, we have a very active improvement development advisory committee. They're a great bunch of people. They care a lot about the park. We've done a lot with the trails in the park to improve the woodland trails. We have joggers and cyclists.
That's one of the most beautiful walks I take all the time.
And yes.
It compares to all of the walks we take in Central Park, and people don't recognize it. It's gorgeous. It is absolutely beautiful.
So I had my wedding photos taken.
Yes.
That's how passionate I am about the park.
You ask most of the people about where do they go to have their photographs taken, and it is in the park or the Rose Garden.
That's right.
The Rose Garden also was that was a project of the Rotary Club, building that, and
which still looks great for this.
It still does, it still is attractive. It's
well, I do agree that the jogging trail and the trails of the park really have just improved so much.
And most people don't even know about the external trails, which is why we've done a lot to present the trail map now, the new kiosks when you walk in, so that people understand. Because most of them know
also geocaching in.
Yes, they do.
Yes. And so for children, that is one of the best things you can take your child on, is this wonderful treasure hunt. And to do the treasure hunt in Mohegan Park is unbelievable. I know we only have about 5 minutes, so I think that I would just like to make one comment. I think that if those 700 people that signed that petition all just made a quick donation to Chelsea Gardens rather than just decide to complain because they're concerned that, my goodness, you'll never get that money. I know about the kinds of grants that you're going to be going after. And I'm one of those people that absolutely believes that, yes, this is an extremely doable project, that you have the kind of commitment from people that have a broader view of what is available and what is possible. I mean, Rotary just built an all-electric vehicle that looks like an old-fashioned streetcar because of a thought, a dream. You can put things together. So if those 700 people are concerned that, my goodness, my tax dollars are going to go to waste, rather than worry about it, get on board.
Absolutely.
Make a donation of $50, of $100,
Sure.
and then that gives the Chelsea Garden Foundation, which is only made up of local citizens who care. This is a nonprofit. You can compare it to any other nonprofit organization right now in Norwich.
Sure.
That is only trying to do wonderful things for our community. Most of the people, I am sure, that have signed the petition have not really, some of them may have been the first council meeting they ever went to, the first time they've become involved. So.
And I wonder how many are all, I know this was put on a larger website, so
Right.
I wonder how many are actually local citizens.
Exactly.
I tend to wonder that as well.
It tends to be more of a fear mongering.
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
and so that's,
that's
why
too
they
bad.
all
It
come
really
out.
is.
Yes.
Because
Especially when the information, the important information about the Chelsea Garden
Yes.
and the foundation has not been openly spoken about. Brandon,
Well,
we want to
we're
thank
so
you.
glad that you're here, but my curiosity is that there's only one person who actually was at that meeting who spoke for the Chelsea Garden.
We spoke before. We had
Yeah.
presented
Oh, I
to the
see.
council
Yeah.
a week
Yes.
or two prior,
A week ago. Okay.
and we figured, well, we'd let them have their time. But we've been out in the public. We've
Yes.
presented this to many organizations, the city council, all the agencies.
And there's
for
always a
years.
member of Chelsea Gardens that is always willing to come to your club or your organization to again speak about this. So Brandon,
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you so
Appreciate
much
it.
for
And
joining us
thank you very
tonight.
much for coming,
Thank you.
and it
It
was
was
nice to hear. And that
Wonderful information.
Thank you.
And a lot that I was not aware of.
Good.
And
I'm
I
glad
do
know.
thank you for your service to our community.
My pleasure.
We need more, I mean, you are a young man, and we do need more of people of your age group to become involved in our community committees. Tell the city council that you are interested in something, they will find a spot for you.
I feel very strongly about that. I think
Yes.
we could speak an hour just on community service.
We
and
may
getting
have
back.
we
I
may
think that's
have you
great.
back just for that.
Awesome.
I could. Okay.
Yes.
Are we almost out of time, or do I have a minute to talk about something else? I have to
No.
round.
wrap it
Okay,
up.
we have to wrap it up. So we will be back next week. If a friend of yours missed the show tonight, tell them to tune in to Facebook, Norwich Confidential, and this show will be, they can watch it on tape by Friday. So thank you, and we'll see you next week.